All right, our focus is on IT, as we've been saying. R Chandrashekhar, President Nasscom, is with us, and Nasscom has just come out with its internet connectivity report, very positive on what is going to happen in 2020. And we all know that penetration is going to be in rural areas, Mr. Chandrashekhar, but I think we need more penetration in urban areas as well. As we just saw, we were trying to get you on a 3G connection, but we finally managed at least to get you on Skype. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start with what the markets are kind of doing to IT companies right now. They believe that the Indian IT outsourcing story is more or less over. There's the whole cost arbitrage is gone. Do you think that the fears are overdone?
Yeah, I think that there is a sort of a trend, an overall trend which is there in the industry, where the story is slowly shifting towards digital, shifting towards delivering business value, shifting towards delivering business transformation, etc. But this is not something which is a transition going to happen overnight. It is a slow and steady transition where from business model past sourcing and predominant sourcing and offshoring trend, this shift is taking place. So what we are seeing is the gradual move in that direction. We are seeing industry moving in that direction. We are seeing skill sets in that direction.
Mr. Chandrashekhar, we are having a bit of a problem even on the Skype connection, unfortunately. So what we are going to do is we are going to fall back on the old-fashioned system. We're going to call you on the phone right now and get you on, because we don't want to miss this opportunity to talk to you. So I'm just going to get someone to call you on your phone line, and we'll just pick that up and we'll... all right, I think you've got the phone call right now. We could see you there getting the phone. So let's get Mr. Chandrashekhar on the phone line. Mr. Chandrashekhar, can you hear me right now?
Yes.
All right, great. The question, we unfortunately couldn't hear a lot of your answer. You were saying that there has been a structural change in the IT sector, and Indian IT industry is getting used to that, trying to deal with that, right?
What I said was that there is a broad trend where companies are increasingly being expected to deliver business value to the end clients. They are being expected to assist and help and partner the clients in making the digital transformation by putting their business onto a digital platform. And these are the transitions that are happening in terms of the business and the business models, with a more of a partnership approach and more of a risk sharing and fixed value kind of deals. What the industry is doing is to ensure that it has the necessary skill sets going forward, a lot of focus on digital skill sets, so this is the broad trend that is taking place. It's not something which is overnight, or which is a dramatic change where overnight all the old models are gone and the new one has come in. It is an incremental change, and I think that the industry is adapting to that change quite well and preparing itself for the future ahead.
Mr. Chandrashekhar, sometimes those inflection points come. Someone goes into automation mode, replaces a contract, reduces the contract's width, and then others follow suit. Are we in that inflection point?
I think that we did cross that inflection point. If by inflection point you mean, people having already started that adjustment. Yes, that is something which probably started a couple of years ago. And I think that steady shift is continuing even as we speak. So I don't think that it's a very sudden inflection which has happened just now. It is something which has been in the works for some time, and compounded with these trends of automation and business value and digital. are also the economic trends in terms of greater turbulence in the global economy, turbulence in certain sectors, and also, the rise and fall of fortunes in some sectors at various points in time. So I think all of these multiple trends are coexisting, and what we see at the end of the day is the resultant of all of these factors at work.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, let me take a very mundane example, and that is almost like the way in which call centers are run, right? Yeah. There's a pizza company which, you order pizza from, and they came up with this experiment where they had an automated voice actually taking your order, directing you to a particular order, and you could actually do it automated. I don't think it worked for them because I was one of those people who would immediately say, please transfer me to the store, and then they would transfer me to the store, right? But essentially, if that had worked, and soon I suspect they'll make it better, then quite a few jobs, quite a few people would have become redundant, right? I'm talking about the kind of huge numbers this IT industry in India employs. What happens to those huge numbers? Should we prepare for a slowdown there?
See, I think, if you look at the impact of this automation, then it has different impact in different areas. The kind of examples that you mentioned are examples of jobs and work which is much more easily automatable and which can be replaced by reasonably efficient IVRS. Not all jobs are in the same category. So what will be seen is jobs which are repetitive and sort of pretty predictable. Those jobs will be the first to get automated and where people will not be needed in those kind of numbers. But equally, there are, when you look at some of the newer technologies which are driving this automation, like, artificial intelligence or big data or, the IoT and so on, all of these are also creating jobs because there are new kinds of applications, new kinds of services, which again require people who have those skill sets to be actually able to develop those solutions, deploy those solutions, maintain those solutions, enhance those solutions. And again, that is very much the forte of the industry. So even as some jobs fall off the cliff, there will be new jobs which will keep coming. The numbers of new jobs getting created within IT may be less than the number of jobs falling off the cliff. But two things can be said. Number one is that they probably will require a different skill set, maybe higher. And the second is that they will also end up creating jobs, but maybe outside of the IT sector, but because of the IT sector. So if you look at the whole impact on jobs and the nature of jobs, I think it's a more complex picture. But so far, net, I think technology has always ended up creating more jobs than it destroyed, whether it was the Industrial Revolution or any other such area. People have raised the question whether this time around it's going to be different. But at least as far as India is concerned and as far as the short and medium term is concerned, I think those apprehensions perhaps need not be there.
But now there's talk also that AI generating AI itself, because when you look at skilled jobs, and we like to believe that we do something which is skilled, which is journalists. I know no one else agrees with that, but if you look at, I'm sure you've heard of MediaMass.net, they are actually generating news entirely using artificial intelligence. Right now it's fake, but they've actually got a model working where they generate regular reports, business reports, entirely on the basis of artificial intelligence. So here is something which apparently is skilled being taken over by artificial intelligence.
Well, I don't think there's a need for journalists to feel particularly insecure, because if you look at, some of the more recent examples, you look at, for example, IBM's Watson and the way that it has outdone doctors in the medical field. Yeah. And arguably, the medical profession is also a very highly scaled profession. Yeah. But I think the short point is that any activity which people do, which human beings do today, which is repetitive, which is predictable, which can be boiled down to a set of rules which can be done by a machine, then sooner or later it will probably end up getting done through a machine or through a computer. Because computers do it accurately, they don't get tired, they don't lead to any of the other problems that you have when you deal with people. But the areas where people will still be needed will be there, except that it will move to higher areas of activity which require more of judgment, more of mental activity, which cannot easily be reduced to a set of thumb rules which any individual can apply.
But are we behind the curve there? Are Indian IT companies behind the curve? I know that when one reads the conference calls or reports of a company like TCS or Infosys, then you know that they're investing a lot on retraining people for all these particular things. But are we behind the curve when we look at these big giants like a Google or a Tesla or anything like that?
No, I'll answer that question in two separate parts. The first is when we say, are we behind the curve? No, who defines the curve? The curve is not defined by the IT companies. The curve is defined by the client companies and what they need and what their business requirements are. And so the way that I would define being behind the curve in that respect is only if the Indian companies or the companies that are operating out of India are not able to meet the demand of the client company. That is certainly not the case, and I think that we are very much on the ball and right up the curve and not behind it. The second part of your question was slightly different, the way I look at it. Because if you look at the Googles and others, that does bring out the fact that so far in India we have been a little behind, and in fact I would say, to be very frank, we have been hugely behind in terms of products and evolving new technologies and new solutions. So that is something I think which is only now beginning, and over the next few years hopefully we will see that becoming much stronger. And I think on that rests our ability to create new value, high valuation companies to create wealth in the new age economy. That is something I think where all the efforts on this Startup India, Stand Up India, on investment into the innovative and entrepreneurial companies is critical. And that is also linked to many other factors in the ecosystem, like the educational system and the R&D that takes place in universities and so on. So there are many other aspects and dimensions to that. And I think that
there's also a lot of cash that our big companies have. I mean, if I look at the top companies, they're sitting on so much cash, which could probably have been better utilized buying out smaller players. I know they do that a little bit, but to invest in R&D much more than they're doing.
I think that what we are seeing very clearly as trends is that because of again, as I said, everything is driven by the clients and what they need. So because the demand is for delivering business value and for delivering transformation and innovation, therefore, the companies here also need to be more innovative and deliver products and services which the clients need. For that, they need a lot of innovation for their own services and offerings to be unique. This is where companies have tried both models of supplying or driving that innovation internally, and the second is by linking up with other companies which have been innovative but which are maybe small companies outside of the large service providing companies. And I think that experience has shown that it's not possible to have all the innovation coming from within the company. Innovation needs nimbleness. Typically, it needs companies which have high technical capability and which are very agile and flexible. And these are typically smaller companies. So we are actually building that bridge. We are seeing increasingly a bridge developing between the large service companies and the small innovative companies. But once again, I think that is still trend which we have to continue to build.
All right. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for being patient with all our difficulties in getting through to you. Thanks a lot.